Hey y'all, coming to you from Jacksonville, Florida. This is GovLove, a podcast about local government brought to you by engaging local government leaders. I'm Ben Kittelson, manager at Raftellus and GovLove co-host. We've got a great episode for you today. We're going to be talking finance and ARP funding in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. But first, the best way to support GovLove is to become an ELGL member. ELGL is a professional association engaging the brightest minds in local government. And now you can follow GovLove on LinkedIn, so you'll never miss an episode if you give our page a follow there. Now, let me introduce today's guest. Halee Ratcliff is the finance director for the Town of Wilkesboro, North Carolina, a position she's been in since 2022. And prior to that, she served as the assistant to the town manager for the Town of Laurel Park, North Carolina. And she's also held positions for the Town of Troy, Town of Dobson, and at the North Carolina General Assembly. So with that, Halee, welcome to GovLove. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Cool. So we have a tradition on the podcast to do a lightning round to get to know our guest better. And my first lightning round question, I warned you before we started, but it's not on our prep list. But last week was the North Carolina Local Government Budget Association conference. I was very jealous. It looked great. But can you give us a highlight or a takeaway from your as we record, I guess it was last week, from the summer conference?
Yeah, absolutely. We had great weather in Beaufort, North Carolina, for our local government budget conference. We always do something fun on Thursday night. So we've had Budget Feud before, which is similar to Family Feud, but it's budget questions. This year we changed it up and we did Budget Olympics. So it was several lawn games out at the hotel. It was fun having all the budget professionals out there having a good time. I won. Me and my partner, Ben, we were the winners of Budget Olympics. So that was definitely a fun highlight for me.
Nice. Yeah. Taking home the prize for Budget Olympics. That's definitely a highlight. Awesome. I'm jealous. That's one of my favorite conferences. It's been a few years since I've been able to go. But there's some back catalog episodes of GovLove that we recorded from a past NCLGBA. I'll let folks find those. But all right. So my first real lightning round question for you. What's the first concert that you went to?
So my first real concert, I would say, is the Zac Brown Band. My mom's a huge fan. So when we were little, she took the whole family to a Zac Brown Band concert.
That's an excellent first concert. That's awesome. All right. What book are you currently reading?
Right now, I just started Even As We Breathe. It's from a North Carolina author. It's pretty good. Just started it. It's about the Cherokee Indian Reservation during World War II at the Grove Park, Asheville area. So pretty interesting. Oh, wow. I like some historical kind of realistic fiction.
Cool. Very cool. All right. Then next lightning question, cake or pie?
I would say cake, but specifically pumpkin chocolate chip pound cake.
Oh my gosh. That sounds amazing.
It's really good. Kind of a weird combo, but it works.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Then my last lightning round question for you. Where do you go for inspiration?
Outdoors. We're really close to the Blue Ridge Parkway here in Wilkesboro, about a 20-minute drive. So if it's been a long day or I just need to kind of clear my head, I'll go up and drive on the parkway and get out, walk around, take in the views and fresh air. Right now it's a lot cooler, so I've been heading up there a lot lately.
Yeah. This is the time of year to escape to the mountains in North Carolina.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah. All right. Then something I always like to ask guests is their path to this field. So for you, what was your path to local government as a profession and your role in Wilkesboro in particular?
Yeah, sure. So I don't think anybody really grows up like wanting to be a local government professional. I didn't even know this was a career field, honestly, until college. I was interning at the North Carolina General Assembly during my undergrad, and they have something called a Town and City Day where town managers and other municipal officials come and kind of lobby and meet with their legislators. And actually knew one of the town managers. He was a good family friend of my dad. He was the town manager of King, North Carolina at the time. And he was like, you're at App State. A lot of us are App State alum. You should look into doing the MPA, Masters of Public Administration program. Mm-hmm. Never heard of it. I was like, okay, I'll look into it. So I get back to school and I go meet with the director. And he tells me you can get your undergraduate and your graduate degree in 5 years. So luckily I looked into
Oh
it
wow.
early enough. I was able to make that happen. So I took 7 years of school and put it into 5, which was nice on the wallet.
Yeah.
Anyway, I did the App State MPA program, and that alumni network that that program has is just extraordinary. I met so many good connections. Actually, my former boss and my current boss are both App State alumni. So really, I give all the credit to meeting Mr. Homer Dearman that day at the General Assembly and him kind of piquing my interest. Um, so then I did a series of internships in small towns. That's really where my passion is. I like the smaller
Hmm.
rural areas. And I ended up in Laurel Park right in the middle of COVID. I finished my graduate school in May of 2020.
Yeah, just a
So it
peek.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, it was really hard to find a job. A lot of the positions I had interviewed for and applied for were now frozen. No one was hiring
Mm,
people because we just didn't know what was happening.
yeah.
Um, so in Laurel Park, my boss kind of saw that other places were doing that. So he created a position, which was really unique during that time. And I was
Yeah.
hired as the first assistant to the town manager at that town. I was there for about 2 years, and I saw the finance director position open in Wilkesboro. I'm from Mount Airy, which is just about an hour away from Wilkesboro, and it's 30 minutes from Boone, which is my college town. So that was a
Hmm.
pretty attractive offer for me. So I
Yeah.
applied and got the job, and here we are.
Awesome. Very cool. Um, so I'm curious, in a couple of those, or in one of those internships that you worked, was there like a project or something you got to work on that made you be like, oh, this is the career path for me. I do want to stick with this.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, once I got into school, I knew I wanted to do something government. Um, being at state government, that was a lot of fun. But in local government, I got to know the people I was helping.
Yeah.
Being out in the community, meeting folks, and having like a really tangible impact that I could see was really fulfilling and rewarding for me.
So getting to see that like local impact, that yeah, you're like I can keep doing this. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It was nice to, be really invested in a community for the summer, and now, it's my full-time career. So
Yeah.
I think
Now
that
full
part's a
time.
lot of fun.
Yeah. But I'm curious. So you mentioned you like the like small like town like aspect of the I guess profession. What about that? Is it why is that role or those kind of communities attractive to you? Why did you want to work in that kind of organization?
Yeah. So I came from a smaller, pretty rural town. I'm from Mount Airy, which is
Hmm.
Mayberry, home of Andy Griffith.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I grew up in a small town, but I think it's the relationships. I can go out to eat in Wilkesboro at lunch, and I see several people I know, which most of the time is a good thing. People are just really friendly in small
Yeah.
towns. I lived in the Asheville area before, and that was fine. But moving to Wilkesboro was kind of refreshing how polite and how nice everyone is. Um, and I find that's a lot of times the case in smaller towns around here.
Yeah. Well, imagine like in the actual like local government organization too, you get to wear a ton of hats in a smaller place compared to maybe being siloed in a place like Asheville or Greensboro or Raleigh.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of say I'm a jack of all trades. Right now, I'm kind of hoping to be a master of finance, but really, I like to, have my hands in a little bit of everything. So you're definitely right about that.
Yeah. Awesome. So for maybe our listeners who have not been to Wilkesboro yet, can you tell us a little bit about the town and kind of what folks would expect if they visited?
Yeah, absolutely. Wilkesboro is located in western North Carolina. We're about an hour west of Winston-Salem. So right at the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains and Parkway. I would say we're best known for Merlefest, which is a
Hmm.
huge music festival. People come from all 50 states internationally to Wilkesboro for the weekend. It's bluegrass, traditional, country. They don't really like to box themselves in, but it's a lot of good music. I think it's good music all in
Yeah.
one place. You get to hear some big names and then some up and coming artists. I'd say it's definitely the big thing. North Wilkesboro has the Speedway, so we just hosted the NASCAR All-Star race back in May, and North
Oh
Wilkesboro
wow.
and Wilkesboro are two different towns, two different incorporated municipalities. A lot of times that's kind of confusing, but
Hmm.
I'd say really rich history with the moonshine that started NASCAR music, and as well as our outdoor recreation. We have a world-class disc golf course that people from all over the nation come and host tournaments and play, as well as several miles of mountain biking trails. Some of the best mountain biking in Western North Carolina is here in Wilkesboro. Um, we have the lake where people like to boat and fish. It's just a really, if you like the outdoors and good music, Wilkesboro is your place.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. So I'm curious, those big kind of like you said, you're drawn from you're drawing folks from all over the country to come visit the small town. So like, how does that impact maybe how the city services or city operations when you've got like a big festival like Merle Fest or a race in the neighboring town? Like, how does that, or people coming for a tournament or mountain biking? How does that affect kind of maybe how Wilkesboro operates compared to maybe other organizations you've been a part of?
Right. Yeah. So with the Merle Fest, they've been doing that for 36 years now. So that's a
Wow.
pretty well-oiled machine. Wilkes Community College is a great partner. They really host that event. So from the town's perspective, we are just making sure, from public safety, that traffic's flowing. We're getting people in and out of the festival safely. So we
Hmm.
kind of ramp up the police around that time. Sometimes it can be really hot. So we make sure fire and EMS are on site taking care of folks. We also operate a campground at our wastewater treatment facility, and it's called Sewer Fest.
Oh wow.
So a lot of folks, yeah, attending Merle Fest will we'll go pick them up in an old school bus and bring them back to our wastewater plant, and they camp. And it sounds kind of crazy, but it's really neat. We have people who've been coming for over 30 years, and they want their same spot every year. So it's something, kind of, we took a wastewater treatment facility plant and it doubles as a campground, and that's also
Wow.
where the disc golf facility is. So we try to get creative in Wilkesboro.
Wait, so I think I missed that when I was prepping. The disc golf facility is at the wastewater treatment plant too.
It is. It's almost
Oh
like
my
one
gosh.
big park. So we treat
Yeah.
treat the water. You can play disc golf. You can camp, and the campground is actually open year round. So if people playing in the tournaments can also camp there.
Oh my god. Well, now Wilkesboro is just rocketing to the top of my travel list.
Yeah, come
That
see
sounds
us.
amazing. Yeah. Oh, get to camp at a wastewater treatment plant and do some disc golf.
That's
That sounds
right. Yep.
awesome. Yeah. That's interesting. Uh, yeah, wow. I can't. That really threw me off. I can't imagine camping at a wastewater treatment plant. But
Oh
it
yeah,
sounds
we
like
have t-shirts and everything. It's a really neat time. You'll go out, the campsites, people will be jamming and having fires, and it's a really cool environment.
that's so cool. Um, that's fascinating. So I'm curious. You mentioned in a small town sometimes you wear multiple hats. So as finance director, so what are you responsible for in kind of your day to day? What does your day to day look like?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm sure everyone would say there's no typical day to day, and that's
Yeah.
true. My year is really broken up into two seasons. There's budget season and there's audit season because we're a
Mhm.
small staff and I handle both of those things with I have a really good supporting staff as well. So right now from July until November, it's audit time. It's all things year end, getting that wrapped up to prepare for um, audited financial statements. So North Carolina's fiscal year ends on June 30th and starts July 1. So the first half of the year from January to June, we're focused on budget, getting that worked up. We have to have our budget adopted before July the 1st. Sprinkled in there, we have lots of capital improvement projects going on. A lot of those are grant funded. So I help manage the financial tracking and reporting for those. Um, we have several exciting big projects going on that I help oversee. I'm also the benefits administrator, which is
Yeah.
kind of somewhat related to finance, but so that's
Yeah.
interesting. I've learned a lot about insurance and how all that is handled. We are
Interesting.
self-insured, so that's been something really fun to learn about, I think.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, well, that is one way to divide up your year. So you don't even get the like summer break of like a budget office would, because you're going right into audit season.
Right. So I took the first 2 weeks of July off, and that's the longest vacation I think I've ever taken. 1 week of that was the budget conference, but that was like a nice reset. So tomorrow, we'll hit the ground running with the audit prep.
Yeah, awesome. Um, so yeah, you mentioned that we're still it's still a fresh new fiscal year now. And, as we record, it's the second week of full week of July. So anything exciting in the FY25 budget for Wilkesboro? Anything you want to highlight or from the newly adopted budget?
Yeah, so I think something that is really exciting. We have a new mayor. He was elected last year, and his big initiative is workforce housing.
Mm,
So we've tied some dollars in our budget toward that goal. I think it's a problem here, just like it is everywhere else. I know it's a problem. I tried to buy a house here 2 years ago. I was commuting back and forth from Mount Airy, where my parents live, to Wilkesboro. It was really hard to find, a starter home, something
yeah,
that's not huge, and the rental options were not very many here.
yeah,
So finding that kind of entry level housing for, like teachers and firefighters and just that first home buyer, I think is really important. And that's really what our housing stock is kind of lacking here. So
mm,
I think that's really exciting that we have the goal and now we've tied some money to it to make it happen.
yeah. Well, that's interesting. I mean, obviously, you hear about that problem in places that are growing really fast and bigger cities, but it sounds so even in kind of smaller communities in Western North Carolina that workforce housing is an issue. Is it just like folks coming and buying second homes that's like restricting the supply, or what do you think is going on there?
Yeah, we don't see too much of that here in Wilkesboro. More out in the country, definitely a
Hmm.
lot of second homes. There are a few industries here. Samaritan's Purse is located in North Wilkesboro. So it's a lot of young families, a lot of, probably first time home buyers who are relocating to work here. I would say that's a big one. Healthcare, that's a pretty big draw. But yeah, I know like for myself, moving here, it was difficult to kind of find a home. I got pretty lucky, I think, and ended up getting something at a good interest rate right before things got crazy. But
Yeah.
um, I'm not sure why there's that lack of
Yeah.
workforce homes.
So what? There's obviously money set aside. So is there? Are you guys going to try and explore what some options are for the town, like actions for the town to take, or is there a plan? Like
Yeah.
what's the plan? Yeah.
So the town owns a piece of property, and basically we're just going to get that site ready for hopefully someone to develop it into the
Mm.
workforce housing.
Oh,
So
cool.
we're not going to be directly involved, but we want to set the stage where a developer could come in and make that happen. So if the utility lines need to be upgraded, stuff like that, stuff on our end, we can take care of that to make that development smooth and easy.
ELGL is excited to celebrate the 9th annual City Hall Selfie Day on August 15th. This is your opportunity to showcase pride in local government by snapping a selfie in front of your favorite local government building. Just use the hashtag CityHallSelfie and tag ELGL when posting your pics on social media. Get your friends, get your coworkers, and get creative to compete for prizes in categories including Best Dressed, Best Community Engagement, and People's Choice. Visit elgl.org for more information. We cannot wait to see your beautiful faces and your community pride on August 15th.
All right. Well, and that kind of transitions nicely to one of the main reasons I want to talk to you was there was an article in the North Carolina League of Municipalities magazine about how Wilkesboro used some of the American Rescue Plan funding, and so we'll be sure to link to that in our show notes. But maybe before we get into some of the specifics about this, can you give us a little background on the opportunities that the the funding represented for the town, and like kind of I don't know what guided the use of that funding.
Yeah, sure. So we got $1.1 million roughly. And it was something our council knew was once in a lifetime, or hopefully once in a lifetime kind of money. Um, and so they wanted to do something that was very tangible, that would really impact all of our residents, as best we could. We didn't want to put the money into like a planning document or something like that. We wanted it to be something that we probably couldn't do otherwise without this influx of cash. So they were all in agreement on that. But then, what do you do? Because there's all these good ideas and all these projects. Like, how do you fund? So we just kind of took a vote and, made things priority. And at the top of the priority was the Cub Creek Park project, which was highlighted in the article. That project was already going on, but the ARPA money allowed us to expand the scope of that project and just make it into this incredible, inclusive playground.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you talk? So, can you talk about like what was the Cub Creek Park project, and then can you talk more about what the additional money did and how you were able to like expand the project?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I just get to reap all the benefits that other people have sown. I mean, this project's been going on for several years now. We've really had some forward-thinking folks at the town planning this kind of stuff. Cub Creek is one of our largest parks. It has mountain bike trails. We have a dog park, pickleball courts. It's a really big piece of land. We have community garden in there. But our play facility was not inclusive. So folks with disabilities or, other kind of limitations didn't have the same opportunities to play as, able-bodied children may. So our playground facility doesn't look like your typical jungle gym setup. It's really unique. The surface allows for wheels to be rolled on, and people of all ages. I mean, I see some of my friends with children, adults out there playing on it. It's a really neat setup, and I think this is becoming more popular. Towns and places are realizing that we need to meet people where they are when it comes to providing accessible recreation. So that's something I'm really proud of. It's also very expensive to do a project like that. So we were able to just add some more elements to the project. We also got a lot of private and grant funding for this. So we're really proud to say that no Town of Wilkesboro tax revenue went into this project, and it was over $1 million. It was completely funded by ARPA funding, state grants, some private donations. So I'm really proud how it all came together. Like I said, I can't take hardly any credit for this. I just managed the finance part. But as a town, it's something we're very proud to be able to offer.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I can't remember from the article, but has construction started? When will the new park be open, and so folks can check it out?
Yeah, so it's fully open. We've not done an official ribbon cutting yet. The biggest problem with the park right now is there's not enough places to park to visit. So I think that's our last little betterment we're working toward, is to resurface the parking lot and give people, a good place to park to go visit. But I think we do have kind of a ribbon cutting grand opening planned in the future, though.
Cool. Awesome. So let's just have to stay tuned for the grand ribbon cutting. Were there other investments that y'all were able to use the ARP funding for in the town?
Yes, there are. So there was a home in historic downtown Wilkesboro, and we have this space. It's called the Community Commons. There's a stage there, a nice place to picnic. We hold concerts there once a month when it's warmer, as well as movie nights. So this historic home is right next to our Community Commons. And the town was able to purchase that property for economic development reasons. We're kind of holding on to it right now, not really sure what we're going to do with it. But that was something exciting that we probably wouldn't have had the funds to purchase otherwise without the ARPA dollars. There's also a property on US 421 heading west that we were able to purchase. Like I said, we don't really know what we're going to do with it, but we were able to find a pretty good deal. So we're just holding that right now for economic development. 421, especially heading west, is really expanding. I think it's probably going to fill in going down that stretch. DOT is doing a huge project right now. We're creating a super street on 421. So folks may be familiar with that, but basically no more left turns. You have to do a U-turn. So it should be a lot safer for pedestrians and motorists. Unfortunately, we do have a fair share of wrecks out there. So exciting stuff happening down that stretch of the highway, and we were able to capitalize and get a nice piece of property with some road frontage, which is exciting.
Yeah, very cool. So obviously you're still working out the plans for the use of those properties, but it sounds like future economic development opportunities. So like, hey, we want to be able to, guide the development on these specific parcels as the town grows.
That's right. Yeah. And heading west, you're heading up to Boone. So if you're coming from, the kind of eastern part of the state, coming to an App State football game on Saturday, you're coming right through Wilkesboro, hopefully stopping and eating and filling up your car before you head up the mountain. So we always try to capitalize on all of our pass-through traffic, as well as folks who, want to come visit and stay the weekend. And it's exciting to see the development and growth heading out that way.
Yeah, very cool. Is there a vision for or I know you guys are, it sounded like it's still in flux, but or not totally finalized yet, but is there like an overall plan for maybe what that could be, like future workforce housing or anything like that?
Not quite yet. Government moves slow. We're kind of holding these cards kind of tight, just seeing, what may pop up, just being patient with it. You never know.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, it seems like, between these investments and some of the other, stuff about Wilkesboro that we talked about, it seems like it's like the American Rescue Plan funding was like a way to invest in, this like, making Wilkesboro like kind of a destination, and like, so continuing to like encourage that, since that's kind of been a bit of the identity of the town now. I don't know if that's a fair interpretation or not.
No, you're absolutely right. We had a couple years ago a huge outdoor economy study done countywide, and that's something that we really want to focus on, is kind of that recreation tourism for people coming to visit, as well as our own residents. So we are making that recreation a priority, one of our priorities in town. And so a piece of the ARPA allowed us to, again, tie some dollars to a priority and make it happen. With the other two pieces, who knows? I'm sure we'll tie them in some way to our priorities, but yeah, no, you're definitely right about the recreation aspect of it.
Oh, so now I got to ask about the outdoor economy study. So what is that, and what went into that? That sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, so a little bit before my time, but I'll give you what I know. So it was a Boone-based planning firm, another Appalachian alumni. Destination by Design conducted this study for the county and the two municipalities, so North Wilkesboro and then Wilkesboro. And it was just a plan kind of highlighting what are our strengths, what are the assets we already have, how can we capitalize on that, continue to build, and just create Wilkesboro and continue what we already have going as a tourism kind of destination because of our recreational facilities and what we offer. So like I said, just kind of highlighting that. There's some other pieces that kind of play into it, but focusing on things like paddle. We have the Yadkin River running right between the towns. So that's a really popular place to kayak. So, things just like identifying good put in and pull out spots along there. It was a really interesting study. I think it's published online. Great State of Wilkes is our tagline. That was kind of the branding for that project.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we'll have to link to it. So, since you've managed the budget process, I'm curious, are there things that the city has or the town has done, or that are in the budget to like help execute any of the items in that plan, or like I don't know, like build put-ins for kayaks along the river or anything like that?
Not specifically this year. I know everybody says like their budget's tight, but this year it really was tight. But typically we do a lot of smaller projects that kind of feed into that overall kind of comprehensive guide of where we should be heading. This year in the budget, I can't really name a specific project that kind of feeds into that, but typically we're always doing a betterment to a playground or a trail We do have a couple of grant funded projects going on with some new greenway portions, and new mountain bike trails, but nothing in the operating budget this year. But like I said, anytime we're able to, we definitely do try to contribute to that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Is that primarily the I guess the town side of that kind of a plan is like, hey, here's some like maybe almost like informing parks planning or capital investments, and then or is there like how do we encourage the the local economy side of that too? This may be out of your depth, but I'm just curious if there's like what anything else around the town's kind of role in implementing something like that.
Yeah, so it's a really lofty kind of plan. There's some things in there that may never be accomplished. But a lot of the things, I mean, it's good to dream big. So a lot of it, we have to partner with the county and also North Wilkesboro, because it's going to take all three to, make some of this stuff happen. So a lot of times we're always in communication with the county and North Wilkesboro, talking and planning, because we are all right there connected, and we have the philosophy that rising tides lift all boats. So what's good for one's good for everybody, especially with this outdoor economy plan.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, cool. Well, thanks for that tangent on when you say something, a plan that I don't often hear. So I was like, I gotta ask more about that. So
yeah, it was really exciting. Like I said, a little bit before my time, but I know the study is published online, and we'll provide the link to that. It's pretty neat to look through.
Yeah. Well, even if the creation of it was a couple of years ago, it sounds like it's a living document, which is what you hope for when you make a plan like that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I can't stand, doing these nice big studies and they sit on a shelf and collect dust and you never revisit. I don't really think that's the case with this one. We're always revisiting and going to see, well, what does the plan say about this? So that's always good to have.
Cool. Very cool. Well, to some degree, it seems like it informed the ARP, the use of the ARP funding as well. Like you're not just, it seems like that's part of executing on that vision was how the purchases and investments y'all made with that funding to tie it all together. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And, as a budget manager, officer, whatever, we always like to tie our dollars to some kind of strategic vision or goal. So unless, the request is really trying to get us to one of those goals or something, it may or may not be funded depending on the priority.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, cool. Well, what's next? What are you working on that our listeners should work out for? Obviously you got the audit season upon you, but is there anything else that you're working on that you want to share with the GovLove audience?
Yeah. So I will have to brag. Wilkesboro, we're self-insured. I mentioned that earlier, but we are able to provide full family health, dental, vision insurance to all employees and their families at no cost, so no premium, which is unheard of. I don't know any other employer that does that. It's a great retention tool. Usually when folks start working with us, they don't leave because you just can't find that kind of benefit package anywhere else. So I think it does make us kind of a competitive place to work, but it's also very expensive, as you can imagine. Healthcare costs are, so last week at the budget conference, I actually saw a slide that said North Carolina was the most expensive state for healthcare. So I know it's rising everywhere. It feels like we're kind of especially hard hit. So every year during the budget process, keeping this full family health insurance is always a battle because it seems to be the first thing on the chopping block a lot of times. So we're really fighting to keep that benefit for our employees because it is such a good retention and recruitment tool. So to do that, you have to get creative. And the people before me were absolute visionaries. That's some of the things that they've done to keep this affordable so we can keep doing it because it is a pretty significant part of our operating budget. So we're always trying to, find ways to improve our workplace wellness program. We have a part-time nurse who comes on site twice a week. She's a healthcare coach and helps our folks set goals. We do some biometric testing. We like to do clinics like dermatology. So in Wilkesboro, there just aren't many providers. And if you do find one, it's hard to get in as a new patient. So we're able to bring in a provider and see as many employees as possible. That may be the only derm screening that some folks get all year.
Wow.
So it's cool to be able to provide that to our people. But yeah, we're always just looking for ways to improve, to keep this insurance. And like I said, you have to be creative. So that's something I'm always thinking about and working on.
That's fascinating. Well, you're right. That's an amazing benefit, and that is such a great retention tool. So there's, that's awesome that the town can do that. Well, and I imagine it's also hard because, like something like a health and wellness program, like the benefits on cost might be much longer term than like a couple of fiscal years, and like getting through a couple of budget processes. So it's almost like you have to have a longer term vision when you're thinking about stuff like that. That's fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. It is definitely the long game. So just getting people to be invested in their health. Sometimes it takes a little bit of carrot versus stick approach. And if that's what it takes, that's great. We just want to get people, most importantly, having our employees healthy is the main goal. But also by our employees being healthy, we're able to have some cost savings and continue to provide this. So any kind of initiative, Katie Lynn, our nurse, she can think of, or I can think of, we try to start with a yes and then backtrack of, well, why couldn't this work? So trying to stay innovative and doing what we can to, kind of meet our employees where they're at in terms of healthcare. We have free well checks as part of the plan, which I think is pretty common, but getting people to go to those free well checks is a whole other thing. So just really always trying to be innovative with that.
That's fascinating. Yeah. Well, and you kind of buried the lead when you said you're a benefits administrator, because that's a pretty complicated benefits program.
It is, especially when you're self-insured. So, previous employers I've been with on the state health plan, and you just pay your premium each month. But I work with our broker to find the best policies, along with our town manager, and make sure that the cost for the benefits is, worth our money and worth our while. So it's been something I didn't really know a lot about when I got here. I knew the minimum for myself personally, but it's been really interesting to learn about how all that works.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. Well, and I bet I don't know how you would measure it, but I would, or what the cost savings would be. But I imagine you're right. It definitely has to have an impact on retention. And so, like, compared to a neighboring town, like, how much are you saving in terms of like recruitment and like just productivity loss of folks leaving that doesn't happen because folks want to stay for this benefit.
Oh, absolutely. It's so expensive to train new staff. I think about myself. North Carolina has the School of Government, so this is my first finance director role. So we've spent several $1,000s to send me to Chapel Hill to learn these finance roles, and this is just one position, and we have 100 full-time positions. So there's always the incentive to keep the human capital and talent that you have, and this is, I think, our best way to do it for sure. So you're definitely right about that kind of long-term cost savings.
Awesome, very cool. That's very cool. So we'll be sure to link to the American Rescue Plan funding and the investments the town's made, the plan that we talked about, and then we'll link to the town's website if there's more info on the obviously. I'm sure you guys have openings where folks can learn more about the benefits. So this has been good.
Yep, and we'll the outdoor economy plan as well.
Yeah, perfect. So Halee, the hardest question is always, our last question is always the hardest one for guests. If you could be the GovLove DJ and pick the exit music for this episode, what song would you pick?
Ooh. Okay. In the spirit of Merlefest and Doc Watson, probably Black Mountain Rag. That's one of my favorite Doc kind of instrumentals. I think that'd be a good way to end this show.
Perfect. That's a great pick, especially for Wilkesboro. That's awesome. Perfect. So that ends our episode for today. Halee, thank you so much for coming on and talking with me. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And for our listeners, GovLove is brought to you by engaging local government leaders, and the best way to support GovLove is to become an ELGL member. You can reach us online at elgl.org/GovLove or on LinkedIn at our GovLove podcast page. And subscribe to GovLove on your favorite podcast app. If you're already subscribed, go tell a friend or colleague about this podcast. Help us spread the word that GovLove is the go-to place for local government stories. And with that, thank you for listening. This has been GovLove, a podcast about local government.